Hey guys, it's me, EODGamer here. Today we have a special one with chat with us on the bottom left of the screen. But let's talk about the tier list right now. In the background here, you have Pride Wins tier list. One huge important thing to note is we are going to be talking about Apocalyptic Shadow as well as Memory of Chaos, who has reset this patch. A huge disclaimer, this tier list that you see on screen has not been updated by the site for the new rotation, so huge fairness to them. It doesn't account for the current changes. We are just planning in advance, talking about it, what could change. So overall, what are my thoughts? Who are the bosses in the first and second half? First half is the Kafka boss, and second half is Sunday boss. If you guys are struggling in the Apocalyptic Shadow, I'll also share with you some thoughts as we go along the tier list, the teams that are actually really good for her. This T0 here, this box of all these characters that you see here, all of them belong in tier 0. The only one maybe is Boot Hill goes down a bit, but let me explain why. Fei Xiao is really strong. In the second half, she's really very strong. First half also, you could argue you can use her as well. Follow attacking teams is very good here. Her premium teams like Fei Xiao together with Topaz and Nambi, together with Robin as well as Aventurine. These are probably the flavors. And we are discussing, do you put characters singly in tier 0 or do you factor in their team compositions? I think that the best way to do it is talk a bit of both, where you not only have to see how good the character is on her own, can be played with total free-to-play characters, but at the same time, premium teams do need to factor in. Of course, we are just talking about E0, S0, so premium E6S5, E2S1 and all that out of the window. So Fei Xiao definitely tier 0, but the character that I think is one of the best right now probably is Firefly. Really demolishes most of the content right now. If you have her, you're probably cruising first half very easily as well. You can also play her in the second half. I think it's also quite fine. Fei Xiao, Firefly probably top 2 if I were to rank them in T0, but honestly they are all really strong. As a result of these two characters just being so dominant in the meta, Break is very cheap to run. You have the free Harmony MC, and I think that Harmony MC, for the price that you're paying, which is $0, gives you a lot of value also. So definitely deserving of T0. In terms of dollar that you spend for a particular character, Harmony MC is probably T-1, a higher tier of that. But other than that, Runmei, very solid, plays with Firefly very well. And of course, your Break support characters like Lingsha, Gallagher, they offer a lot of fire breaking damage as well, and Aventurine plays very well into most team compositions. So we're talking about the sustain categories, and this segment, I just want to share a bit of my thoughts on all the sustain characters. Some of you maybe are making a pick. In my opinion, out of all the sustain characters, number 1 right now in the game, and probably it is debatable, but my thought process is number 1 probably is going to be Lingsha right now, because all 3 dominant meta characters and even a new character rapper, Lingsha can play into any of these 3 teams. So she can be put in all of them. Aventurine also can be, but he's mostly 2 out of 3. The last team maybe is not as great in terms of break teams with Firefly. So that is his only downside. But Lingsha probably number 1, Aventurine is number 2. Fucc and Ho Ho are useless. They are not. And in fact, they are sitting very respectively in T0.5, even though they are not best in slot for the 3 main characters. But it's because if you don't have the main 2, you can slot Ho Ho, you can slot Fucc anywhere, and they still will be decently good. It's just that they don't play into the strengths of the main team to allow you double down. That's why they are sitting slightly lower. At this point, 2 big questions that I want to answer. 1, where is Rapper? Is Rapper 0.5 or is she T0? Because this obviously doesn't factor in the new Apocalyptic Shadow. That this is just the previous rotation. So my opinion, Rapper, I think she sits directly together side by side with Firefly. They are really excellent characters at T0 together. Rapper definitely moves up to T0 in this rotation of the Apocalyptic Shadow for sure. The question really is who is better? Is Firefly or Rapper better? And I honestly will tell you, I do not have a final answer of who is better. But one thing I want to mention that is worth for us to ponder over is elemental coverage. The best teams of Firefly right now involve 1 fire breaker. You have 2 other characters, Ice and Imaginary, but the support that offers you a lot of break, let's say Lingsha for example, or even Gallagher, you are doubling down a lot on fire. Right now in the game is okay because enemies are either weak to fire or you can just implant the weaknesses. But once we rotate into a meta where fire enemies are very resistant to fire, or maybe, for example, what if we have future characters that just cannot get fire weakness and they have very high fire resistances? Then in that case, you're doubling down on the same element altogether. And I think that is where Rapper truly begins to shine a little bit more to Firefly, because you have that diversification of element. Not only do you get the fire breakers to do their thing, but you also get the imaginary breaker from Rapper, of course. So you split your eggs in one basket. The old way this was really good was, of course, Topaz and Nambi together with Dr. Ratio. Their combination was super good for a really long time, because 6 months ago, every single elite boss in the game and every big boss was either weak to imaginary or weak to fire, and that is why their combo works so well. And we are seeing a little bit of shift in that sense from Rapper. And I just want to leave it at that. There is no conclusion who is better or not, just some things to ponder over as we move on into the game. The next thing, the big most contentious thing everyone is like talking about right now, and I just want to answer that, is Akirion at 0.5. E0S0 Akirion is a bit of a painful rating here in Apocalyptic Shadow. Epoch Shadow now, she still works very well. And one of the biggest things that we are talking about is if you are talking about Firefly playing her best teams, Fei Xiao playing her best teams, and that's why they're like pushed up a bit more, and you are not considering Akirion E0S0 in her best teams, then I think it's a bit unfair. If you are talking about Akirion with like 4-star characters like maybe Quake Knife and Pella, very different from a character like Akirion with a very, very good support. For example, maybe you have Jiao Qiu, maybe you're playing with another Nihility character like Silver Wolf, maybe you're playing with like Kafka, Black Swan for that 5-star stats and stuff like that. I think that then is a whole different thing altogether. For Epoch Shadow, I feel that it's less reason to push her down to 0.5. And in fact, I could even see a place that is justified for her at T0, especially if you have a S5 Boundless Coral, which is a 4-star limited light cone. The assumption is only just E0, S0. So you don't make an assumption like what is the other 4-star light cone cast that you have. I'm not even talking about whether you can use other 5-star light cones, limited light cones as well. It just tells you it's not their signature, right? All the assumptions aside, I see a case that she still can be T0 in the right gear, especially for this Epoch Shadow. The other characters I want to talk about here very quickly, because most of them, not too much issue. Boothill, I think, is slightly lower in this rotation. I think Boothill should be moved down to 0.5. And this list over here, Himiko goes up, I feel. Himiko Super Break is really, really strong. For those of you who are struggling a little bit without like Rapper, without Firefly, because you don't play in the break teams, you're a newer player, you have Himiko, consider running her Super Break. That's what a lot of people are doing. Very fantastic. It's the only thing that's different from the template method that's going on. I think that's worth considering. Other than that, for this role here, maybe Jiao Qiu deserve a side rating higher because the enemies are weak in fire, but I see a case for everyone else staying more or less as it is. Maybe like some of the bottom characters can be moved, but this nitpicking, I don't want to spend too much time over here. I want to move on to the next one, which is Memory of Chaos as well. This is also just reset, but it reset not too long ago, like maybe a couple of weeks ago. So just to keep it in our mind, what are the characters? The first half, I believe it was the 3 puppets, and the second half is Hule. What happened when Hule came about? A quick recap. Yunli, characters like Counter, characters like Clara all went up a little bit in terms of the tier list, but fact is, the meta is pretty much like the same. At this point, one of my biggest pet peeves is like everything is like, you're using the same characters everywhere. The 3 main teams are just so dominant, right? Again, you have Fei Xiao, you have Firefly in the first tier, which I don't disagree. If you're struggling with Hule, Fei Xiao is probably like the best addressing factor, especially if you have like good teams. Some people also use Yunli, he's also like decent as well. But Firefly first half stomps, absolutely destroys the entirety of the first half. One other character, of course, is Rapper. The enemies in the puppets on the first half is actually weak to imaginary. In that case, Rapper deserves on the same par as Firefly as well. AoE damage, 3 puppets. Rapper is definitely probably up there. There's not too much changes here. Everyone is here. This is where Akirion, I will agree, is 0.5 as well in the tier list. Akirion just feels a little bit like a fish out of water at this point, especially if you do not have her at E2S1. E2S1 Akirion, by the way, is a very, very huge difference between E0, S0, and very massively so. I'll elaborate in a bit, but let's get there slowly. Other than all of these characters here, the one that I think I wanted to comment on was this last box here. Other than the fact that Rappers are going up, right? Fei Xiao, Gallagher, and Ling Sha. I think that these 2 characters, Gallagher and Ling Sha, deserve a bit higher placement over here into your tier 0, and Ho Ho is a bit of a question mark. Why is she like placed in tier 0? One of the reasons that I was like thinking of is maybe because pure Memory of Chaos needs a sustain more than Apocalyptic Shadow, because you can't have anyone dying in Memory of Chaos, but Epoch Shadow, as long as you hit certain thresholds, you'll be able to get your full clear. So maybe that's why sustain characters are rated higher. So these 2 units, Ling Sha and Gallagher, for whatever reasons they were good in Apocalyptic Shadow, their best characters, their best teams, Firefly, Rapper, both can be played with both of them. And you can even like play Ling Sha together with like Fei Xiao if you really needed to. Maybe you don't have like Aventurine, for example, also. So I think these 2 go up, forming a 4 heavy man in the last slot. And the rest of them, I think I don't have too much of a problem with the rest of the list. Last point, of course, about Akirion. E0, S0 is a big hoo-ha. I can see why they brought it down, because Akirion is like not as reliable as Break, who is the flavor of the month right now. But she's still extremely strong, especially if you have an S5 Boundless Coral, you have Jiao Qiu. Changes the character quite a bit. And at the end of the day, the best character, in my opinion, in the game is E2S1 Akirion. If you compare everyone at E2S1, the difference between Akirion at E0, S0 and E2S1 of Akirion is ridiculously different, especially because you can take out your Nihility character, who is not that great right now in the second Nihility slot, and slap in like a monster of Sparkle and Sparkle becomes tier 0 with E2S1 Akirion. But that's just a huge disclaimer aside. Do you pull for massively a lot of things? Please don't. My honest recommendation for most of you watching this video is this tier list is not meant to be like make you upset, make you FOMO over certain characters. It's know that there's always ups and downs in the metas, and more importantly is make sure that you don't spend too much, save your money. We are in a resting patch right now, and that's my honest recommendation for all of you. And like, comment, and subscribe if you found this video helpful. Thank you guys again so much for watching. Chat as well, joining us right here in the bottom left as well. And see you guys in the next video.